Good morning, Crossroads students. It's actually not morning anymore. It is 12:24. So good afternoon. My name is Russell, just like Charlie said, and I am so excited to be here with you today. You might be wondering, what is this guy on stage wearing? What is that funny little shirt he's got on? Some of you might know what it is. Some of you might not. Like they said, it is the shirt that every Boy Scout wears. And I, too, once was a Boy Scout. Yeah, you might be confused, though. You might be a little bit confused. You might hear the name Russell. You might see a Boy Scout up on stage. Just for some clarification, I am not that guy that got kidnapped by the old man with, like, the balloon house and got taken to the rainforest. Not me. Hey, we kind of look alike. We're both Boy Scouts. We have the same name. Not the same person, okay? Just a little bit of clarification for you. Boy Scouts is actually really fun, though. Like, I've made a ton of friends in Boy Scouts. I went on some really amazing campouts when I was in Boy Scouts, and it sounds kind of corny, but learning about the environment and, like, the woods and, like, the wilderness and all kinds of stuff like that was actually really cool when I was in Boy Scouts. I remember there was this one campout that we went to, and this is the only thing that I remember from it, is that we woke up in the middle of the night, all the boys, we walked out of our tents, we surrounded our leader's tent, we all took our shirts off, and then we, like, started slapping our stomachs and, like, beating our chests, and we were jumping around, and we were making just so much noise, and I don't know why. Like, I couldn't tell you why or, like, what made us want to do that, but I just remember these campouts being so much fun. There was this other one that we would do. It was around Thanksgiving every year. It was usually a week or two before, and we had this really, really original name for it, and the name for this campout, you ready? We called it the Turkey Campout, okay? It was around Thanksgiving. We called it the Turkey Campout. We called it the Turkey Campout because at the end of the week, we would make a Thanksgiving-style dinner for everybody's family. We'd invite them over for a meal, and then we would just share a meal together. And that's honestly why it was one of my favorite campouts, just because I got to share a meal with the people I love. But at the beginning of that campout, all the boys were sitting in the cabin. And we were sitting in a circle. We were just talking, probably staying up a little bit too late. But we were sitting in a circle, and I noticed that the boys kind of start to pass something around the circle, but I'm not really sure what it was. And so it gets closer to me, and I look at it, and I notice that what the boys are passing around the circle is a vape. Now, I know, vaping's bad for me, and I know God doesn't want me to vape, but, like, at the same time, if they offer me a vape and I say no, are they gonna think I'm weak? Like, am I gonna lose the friendships that I've put so much into? And so it got to me, and I just remember this intense internal conflict, like this struggle. Just like, yeah, I know it's bad for me, and I know God doesn't want me to vape, but I don't want him to think I'm weak. Like, I don't want to lose these friendships that I have. Like, is it really worth it? And I ended up just passing it right past me, but what I remember most vividly from that night, I woke up in the middle of the night. I was drenched in nervous sweats, and I barely made it out of our cabin door before I threw up everywhere. I was so sick from the environment that I'd put myself in that I threw up. And so what I ended up having to do was I had to leave Boy Scouts. Like, after that, not even 6 months later, I was no longer a Boy Scout. What ended up happening was I had to run away from being a Boy Scout. I literally had to do this. I had to take the shirt. I had to take it off. I was like, I'm no longer a Boy Scout. I had to throw it all the way over here, and I had to run away. I had to get as far away from it as possible. And what ended up happening was, and this isn't what I thought was going to happen either, I threw away that shirt. I got rid of it, and I ran away from it. But what I didn't realize was that I ran to other relationships that I had. Like, I had friends that I'd made here at Crossroads, and I'd pretty much forgotten about them when I joined Boy Scouts. And running away from Boy Scouts let me build into those relationships and make friends that I would now call my brothers and sisters. But I don't want you to just take my word for it. I want you to take the Bible's word for it. Because here at Crossroads students, we believe that this here, it's a Bible. We believe that it's the ultimate source of truth. And so I'm going to tell you a story today from a book called Genesis. It's the first book of the Bible, about a guy named Joseph. Now, all you need to know about Joseph is that he worked for this guy named Potiphar. So he worked in the fields for Potiphar. He worked inside the house for Potiphar. He was basically a butler, okay? And that's where we're going to start our story off. with a guy named Joseph. It says, Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man, and Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. Now, if you don't know what that means to look at somebody lustfully, it means that you really, really want somebody. So in this scenario, Potiphar's wife was down bad for Joseph. That's the best way I can put it. So Potiphar's wife said, "Come and sleep with me," she demanded. But Joseph refused. "Look," he told her, "my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God." So what he's saying here, he's like, no, I'm not going to sleep with you. No, I'm not going to do any of this stuff with you, because it would be giving into a temptation that I don't want to give into. It'd be disrespectful to God to give into that temptation. She kept on putting pressure on Joseph day after day, but he refused to sleep with her, and he kept out of her way as much as possible. One day, however, no one else was around when he went in to do his work. She came and grabbed him by his cloak, demanding, "Come on, sleep with me." Joseph tore himself away, but he left his cloak in her hand as he ran from the house. And that's exactly what I'm trying to tell you guys to do, is that Joseph didn't put up with being in a scenario or being in an environment where he was being tempted. He left his cloak, he left one of his most prized possessions, one of his only pieces of clothing, and ran away from that situation, ran away from that temptation. Now, you might be a little bit confused. You might be like, Russell, you're saying all these words like temptation and urges and giving in, and I'm not really sure what any of that is. And so I looked it up on the internet. I was like, okay, give me the most basic definition for temptation. And this is what I found. I found that temptation is the urge or want to go against what God has intended for our lives. And what God has intended for our lives is a relationship with him, a loving relationship with him. See, he wanted a relationship with us so much that he gave up his one and only son. The thing he loved most in this world, he gave it up so that we could have a relationship with him. But when we give in to temptation, we weaken that relationship. We weaken that bond. But that's why I'm here to talk to you guys today. And it's to give you another play in your playbook to fight temptation. So the most basic version of that play, if you're going to take anything from this, the one-liner is that we need to run away from the environments that tempt us and run to the environments that help grow us. I think we need to live our lives like that. I think that's how we should look at our everyday scenarios, look at what we face in life. Am I being tempted by this environment? Are these people tempting me? Is this substance tempting me? And do I need to run away from it? But I think what's more important than that is, what are we going to run to? Am I going to run to my friends? Am I going to run towards what God intended? Because I think we should. There's this really cool verse that I found when I was researching for this talk, and it's a verse in James, and it says this. It says, "Resist the devil, and he will flee from you." And it might not make sense on the surface, but what that's saying is when we flee from temptation, when we run away from the urges that Satan puts in our lives, he will flee from us. When we resist him, he will flee from us. And I don't know about you, but to me, that is mind-blowing. It's wildly encouraging to hear that when I resist temptation, Satan will flee from me. It gives me a reason to want to flee from temptation. It gives me a reason to push towards the path that God intended for me. So that's my challenge to you guys. This week, this month, this year, however long your lives may be, I want to challenge you. Look in your lives. What's tempting you? What environments do you might need to run away from? See, for me, it was Boy Scouts. I had to run away from those friendships because there were things in there that might just be tempting me. Some of you might be like, hey, I spend way too much money. I found out online shopping is a thing, and I'm broke now. So what you might need to do is you might need to take this. Just get it out of here. You might need to take it away. You might need to run away from it. Some of you might scroll endlessly at night. Some of you might look at social media. You might look at other things on your phone. You might text people on your phone. And you know what you might need to do? I'm just kidding, guys. I would not throw my phone. No, this thing would like shatter into a million pieces. No, but that's my point. Like, what do we need to throw away from our lives? What do we need to run away from? It's my challenge to you guys. Look at what we need to run to and look at what we need to run away from. I'm going to pray for you guys. God, I thank you for bringing everyone here today. God, I thank you that you gave up so much to have a relationship with us, so that when we face temptation, we don't have to face it alone, but we can face it with you. God, I thank you for every gift you've given us and every sacrifice you've made for us. God, I pray all of this in your name. Amen. All right, we are going to go to a time called C groups. And if you don't know what C groups are, it's basically just a group of kids your age and gender with a leader where you can talk about life, you can talk about service, you can really talk about anything that you want to. Your leaders should be standing around the back of the room holding signs with your grade and gender. Have a great C group.